form new words. Some words were simply invented, meaning somebody creates the word and people start using it. But there are words that gone under word formation processes. Knowing this can actually help you better understand the English language, not to mention the fact that knowing a word's origin is a great way to reinforce your understanding of it. It will make you a better reader, a better speaker, and a better student. Hi, I'm Ma'am B, and in this video, we're going to talk about the different types of word formation processes. Let's start with clipping. So what is clipping? It's actually something you're likely very familiar with. It's the simple process of forming a new word by clipping off part of an existing word, meaning we are removing some parts of a word. For example, the word exam, which of course comes from the longer word examination. So the letters I-N-A-T-I-O-N or ination have simply been clipped off, forming a new word that shares the definition and context of the older word. So we remove the letters ination and we have another word exam coming from examination, which has basically the same meaning. Now there are different types of clipping. So clipping comes in 4 basic varieties. Number 1 is final or back clipping. So as we have seen in exam and examination, back clipping is when the back half of a word is deleted. So meaning the last few letters of the word were deleted. Another example of back clipping aside from exam and examination is memo, which is the back clip form of memorandum. So we remove the last few letters R-A-N-D-U-M and we have a new clip word memo coming from memorandum. It's the same thing with info coming from information. If we have final or back clipping, we also have the initial or fore clipping. So this process can be reversed. We can delete the beginning of a word. So an example of initial or fore clipping is robot. Okay, so we have deleted the first 2 letters raw and we have a new clip word called bot coming from robot. And the same thing with alligator. So we sometimes use the word gator to refer to alligator. Though it's rare, we also have what we call mid-clipping. Okay? So when the beginning and end of a word is clipped to form a new word, that's mid-clipping. So meaning we have removed a few letters in the beginning and in the end of the word to have formulated a new word. For example, influenza. So we usually call it a flu. So we have removed IN and we have removed ENZA. So this is like a combination of fore clipping and back clipping. Lastly, we have compound clipping. This involves clipping more than one word to form a new word. So we're not just going to clip a single word. This time, we have to clip more than one word. For example, sci-fi. So this comes from the words science fiction. So we clip the word science and we also clip the word fiction to use or to come up with sci-fi. It's the same thing with sitcom. So we have clipped the word situation and the word comedy and we combine these 2 clip words to come up with the word sitcom. Now, I have here 5 clip words. These are words that already went under the process of clipping. Can you determine as to what are the original versions of these words? What do you think are the longer versions of these words? Number 1 is van. Number 2, psycho. Number 3, fax. Number 4, jammies. And number 5, net. Pause this video if you need more time to think of your answers. Number 1, van. Van is actually a clip word of caravan. And this is an example of fore or initial clipping. Number 2, we have psycho coming from the word psychopath. Okay? And this is an example of back clipping. Number 3, fax is actually a shorter word for facsimile. And this is also an example of back or final clipping. Number 4, jammies refers to pajamas. And this is an example of mid clipping. And number 5, net, coming from the word internet, and it is an example of initial or forward clipping. Now, let's proceed to number 2, blending. A word blend is formed by combining two separate words with different meanings to form a new one. So these words are often created to describe a new invention or phenomenon that combines the definitions or traits of two existing things. And this is also called as portmanteau. So blending is also called portmanteau. And this is combining two different words to form a new one. There are different ways of creating word blends. One way is to combine portions of two other words to make a new one. For example, the word camcorder. So these came from two different words, camera and recorder. And we have used portions of this word to create a new word. So we've only used cam from camera, and we took corder from recorder, and now we have a new word, camcorder. Word blends can also be created by joining a full word with a portion of another word. So earlier, what we did is we have two words and we only took some portions of these words. Here, in this process, what we did is we're going to use one full word and it's going to be combined with a portion of another word. For example, motorcade is a combination of motor and cavalcade. So we use the entire word motor, and then we use cade, which is a portion of the word cavalcade, to come up with the word motorcade. Word blends can also be formed by overlapping or combining phonemes, which are parts of two words that sound alike. What we have here is Spanglish as an example. So Spanish and English both ends in ish. So they have these similar sounds. And what we did is we combined these sounds, these phonemes, to come up with an informal mix of spoken English and Spanish called Spanglish. Finally, blends can also be formed through the omission of phonemes or sounds. For example, Eurasia. These came from two words, Europe and Asia. We remove the last sound or the last syllable group from Europe, and we just use the portion U, and then added the full word Asia to come up with the new word Eurasia. This time, let's take a look at these words. So we have two words each number. How can you blend these words to come up with a new word? Number 1, breakfast and lunch. Number 2, binary and digit. Number 3, education and entertainment. Number 4, emotion and icon. And number 5, smoke and fog. Ready? Okay. So combining breakfast and lunch, we will have the word brunch. Number 2, binary and digit, we'll have the word bit. Number 3, education and entertainment, we're going to have the word edutainment. For number 4, when we combine emotion and icon, we have the word emoticon. And lastly, number 5, when we combine smoke and fog, we are going to have the word smog. Next, acronym. It is a word formed from the initial letters of a name or by combining initial letters of a series of words. For example, we have DOLE, which means Department of Labor and Employment. And we also have the word radar, which stands for radio detection and ranging. Now, you may be asking, what is the difference between an abbreviation and an acronym? Abbreviations and acronyms are shortened forms of words and phrases. So it's no wonder that they are often interchanged. Yet, the two are quite distinct. The main point of reference is that abbreviations are merely a series of letters, while acronyms form new words. It's also worth pointing out that an acronym is a type of abbreviation because acronyms are shortened forms of words and phrases. Let's take a closer look at abbreviations. As we know, an abbreviation is a shortened form of a word or phrase, such as MR, the letters MR for Mr., or HR for hour, that is still said as the full word or words. So although we see the letters MR, okay, we still pronounce it as Mr. Now, there are millions of common abbreviations used every day. So let's take a look at some of the popular ones we see or use almost daily. When you write your address, you likely write ST followed by a period for the word street, right? And we still pronounce it as street even though we just see these two letters. Or AVE period for avenue. When you record the date, you likely abbreviate both the days of the week. Sometimes you just use MON for Monday, TUES for Tuesday, JAN for January, FEB for February, and so on. Often we use the abbreviation X or EX period for the word example. How about the versus or VS period? That's another popular abbreviation shortened from the word versus. Meanwhile, an acronym technically must spell out another word. So this is a good point of reference to help you distinguish between abbreviations and acronyms. Another good way to differentiate them is that acronyms don't just shorten words. They often simplify a long organization name, scientific term, or idea. Some acronyms create new words that are so commonly used, we forget they're actually a series of letters from a longer word or phrase. For example, when we go scuba diving, we rarely consider the fact that scuba is actually an acronym, which means self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. This time, I have here some acronyms. Can you figure out the meaning of these acronyms? Number 1 is PIN, number 2 is BAY, number 3 is WWW or triple W, number 4 SIM, as in SIM card, and number 5 ASAP. Alright, let's find out the answers. PIN actually stands for Personal Identification Number. Number 2, BAY, means before anyone else. Number 3, WWW means World Wide Web. Number 4, SIM in SIM card means Subscriber Identification Module. And number 5, ASAP or ASAP stands for as soon as possible. Next, we have compounding. Compounding words are formed when two or more lexemes combine into a single new word. Compound words may be written as one word or as two words joined with a hyphen. Here are examples of how we can compound words. So it depends on the part of speech. We have noun and noun compound. For example, notebook. We have an adjective noun compound. For example, blueberry. We also have a verb noun compound. For example, workroom. Noun verb compound, as in breastfeed. Verb compound, as in stir fry. Adjective verb compound, as in highlight. Verb preposition compound, as in break up. Preposition verb compound, as in outrun. Adjective compound, such as bittersweet. And preposition compound, as in into. Now, compounds may be compositional, meaning that the meaning of the new word is determined by combining the meanings of the parts. For example, blueberry. Okay, so a blueberry is a berry that is blue. So the meaning of the new word blueberry is determined by the parts that compose that word. When we say non-compositional, on the other hand, the meaning of the new word cannot be determined by combining the meaning of the parts. For example, breakup. Breakup is not a relationship that was severed into pieces, right? And in upward direction. So we cannot use the meaning of break and up to come up with the real meaning of the word breakup. Okay? So that is what we call non-compositional. This time, I have 5 words here, compound words to be specific. Can you determine the structure of these words? What kind of combination did we do in order to come up with these compound words? Okay, let's see. In lipstick, we have a combination of noun and noun, lip and stick. In number 2, fast food, we have a combination of an adjective, fast, and a noun, food. In number 3, breakfast, we have a combination of verb, break, and fast, an adjective. In number 4, sunshine, we have a combination of a noun, which is the sun, and shine, which is a verb. And number 5, we have bittersweet, which is a combination of an adjective and another adjective. Last one, we have folk etymology. Folk etymology refers to the changing of a word or phrase over time, which results from the replacement of an unfamiliar form by a more familiar one. For example, the word salary. The word salary comes from the Latin salarium, meaning salt money. In ancient times, salt was used for many important things and was often referred to as white gold. As far back as the Egyptian Empire, laborers were paid with salt that they could use to preserve their food. The Roman Empire continued using this form of payment, and it took on the name salary for that which was given to workers at the end of the working month, which adds a new dimension to the notion of a company's solvency. Another example is the word quarantine. In mid-14th century Europe at that time, there was a plague known as Black Death, and it was actually ripping through the continent. Starting in 1343, the disease wiped out an estimated one-third of Europe's population. Officials in the Venetian-controlled port passed a law establishing Trentino, or a 30-day period of isolation for ships arriving from plague-affected areas. No one from Ragusa was allowed to visit those ships under Trentino, and if someone broke the law, they too would be isolated for the mandatory 30 days. Over the next 80 years, Marseilles, Pisa, and various other cities adopted similar measures. Within a century, cities extended the isolation period from 30 to 40 days, and the term changed from Trentino to Quarantino, the root of the English word quarantine that we often use today. Question: can you figure out this word? This word was borrowed directly from Spanish cucaracha. These are insects, while other people will call it pests, that you often find in buildings or even at home. They have been around since the time of dinosaurs and can live up to 1 week without its head. What do you think this refers to? That's right. Those are cockroaches or cockroach, or we also clip this word to roaches. Next word. This word started out as Arabic shamat, which means the king is dead, although other sources says that it literally means that the king is left helpless or the king is stunned. It also borrowed from the old French word exécuter. What do you think is this word? The king is dead. That's correct. This is the word checkmate. So today we have discussed 5 word formation processes, and those are clipping, blending, acronym, compounding, and folk etymology. Understanding the different word formation processes help us thoroughly understand the creation of the English vocabulary. I hope this video had helped you understand these different word formation processes. Thank you so much for watching.